what? Beer is beer.
Happy Leash Podcast Day, Leash Dad's Podcast. You know the whole drill. That's Justin.
That's Jared.
That's right. We are two leash dads that get together to discuss our everyday life while chained to our parental responsibilities. And tonight we're talking about sex.
Let's talk about
when it comes time to talking with the children about it, though,
the appropriate times. Not
yes.
really any sooner. No, but you talked about those responsibilities. Is that responsibility also of picking and drinking appropriate beer or good beer at the right time, not the crap beer you just talked about?
I don't know. I mean, it's not really crap beer. I mean, it's I don't want to get in trouble with the Lagunitas people, but it was a gift for Christmas, and I just popped it open for the first time, and it's okay. It's not something
that was
I would
about
buy
a month
myself.
away now.
Maybe it's just outdated. I don't know.
I don't know. I didn't think beer actually went that fast, or still that fast, or whatever. Yeah. Well, let's just put it this way in perspective, okay? About a week ago, I was childless, which was nice, right? So I went and hung out with Matt. I called him up and said, "Hey, by the way, blah blah blah. Nobody's home. I don't know where they're at." I've used my Life 360 or family tracker. Found out that they were down somewhere south, doing something called glitter photos. So it's like what it is basically, right? You throw glitter up in the air, you take photos, or do something with glitter. It's very messy. My kids came home in glitter. Boy, oh boy, do I hate glitter. More than I hate loose strands of hair.
Well, that's why you don't go to strip clubs, right?
That's a different type of glitter.
Folks, there's two different kinds of glitter.
The glitter you want and the glitter you don't want.
Well, I actually kind of don't want both. But anyway, we're getting off of it.
Anyway. So, yes.
So they're gone. You hung out with Matt.
And while we were at his house for a little bit, we cracked open some beer. Oh, boy, was that beer bad. And I'm not talking like the beer we bought was great, but it was also months old.
Oh.
So it lost its crispness. Basically, it was stale or flat at that point. So we just got rid of it and got some new beer. But that was like the first in a long time that I feel like I've actually had multiple drinks in a setting. So, yeah, it was a good time. But other than that, I mean, well, weeks have been weeks. They've been coming together. Feels like days in, days out. I'm somewhat mentally exhausted, so work has put a number on me recently. I mean, yesterday actually went pretty well, or Tuesday, I should say. Tuesday went well. And I say that because it was chaotic. We were down a person, which doesn't, coming from a standpoint, yes, you're probably going to be like, what the hell? What is he saying? It's chaotic and you're down a person. That doesn't sound like a very good start. But I felt very successful because I couldn't really make mistakes that I would have to all of a sudden be like, okay, well, let me stop. Let me go get somebody else, get them in this chair, or, next to the patient and start working on them. No, I was doing good work, getting patients in the chair, working on them and getting them out. And it was great. I felt very good about it because it felt like at that point, as much as it feels like I had some pressure on me, like the entire team had pressure on them, right? We couldn't really make mistakes because we were down people and the schedule was basically full all day. Yeah. So it's just like that pressure kind of put it into some reality that I can do this. It's kind of like one of those tests, right? You rely on people for so much because it's what you're comfortable with and what you really need to do in the beginning. But now we're going to rip those training wheels off and say, here you go. You've
Cool.
done it with training wheels. Now take the training wheels off and just start riding. Or take that test. Oh, by the way, you have nothing. No calculator, nothing. You've got to figure out how the fuck to do it. So that's
Yikes.
what it felt like yesterday. And it wasn't like by any means bad. It actually was kind of nice being able to do it that way. So it was a good time. I can't think.
So, with you being overwhelmed, did you Did you relate to my episode last week?
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit, yeah. But I mean, it was very interesting. So I also wanted to thank you for that as well, taking care of that.
Ah.
For those of you who don't know, I was out uh, last week Monday. I had come down. Well, I shouldn't say last week Monday. The weekend, I had come down with pink eye, and then Monday I basically called in to work because I couldn't. My eyes were so goopy shut in the morning or throughout the night. Um, my eyes were red. They were very irritated. Just to paint the picture, I sent a message to my boss at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning saying, "Hey, I'm not coming into work. Both my eyes have pink eye." And I reached out to my doctor and did like an e-visit or an electronic visit, so they don't really have to. I don't have to go
Teledoc,
in. They
yeah.
don't have to go in or whatever. Didn't even do a televised one or like
Oh.
here's a video one. It was just like I sent my my issues in, and then she once time rolled around because their office didn't open until 7 o'clock. Once 7 o'clock or a little after 7 rolled around, she would come in and probably review some of those notes that she gets from people that are like, okay, let's just do an e-visit, get it over with. She's like, yep, based on what you're telling me, your symptoms, you have pink eye. I'm going to send over your prescription to so and then blah. So needless to say, I got my prescription the same day. Didn't even have to go into the doctor's office. Started it. So an entire week I was basically like Jared, glasses all day, 24/7. Actually, I think that's the second time now I've had pink eye for the show, but or talked about pink eye for the show. But one of my my supervisors, she asked or told me, or more or less asked me, who the hell is shitting in your on your pillow?
Yeah.
Or
Right.
who's farting on your pillow, right? Who's getting the poo on your pillow? Yeah, no. But Wednesday was just bad for that time. And I was just so exhausted at that point.
I can
Just from,
imagine.
I mean, I wasn't overwhelmed or anything for that. I was just exhausted, physically exhausted that I've, almost kind of like where I am right now. Could fall asleep. So the good news is my daughter is now sleeping. No more fussy wussy. Um, she's not making a guest appearance tonight. Sorry, or she will not be making a guest appearance at all. She is down in her crib, which is something new we started recently. Trying to get her to like, we're trying to weed her off of cuddling with us at night while going to sleep. Even though it's very like, it just it touches, it pulls at the heartstrings where you want to still do it, but yet at the same time, I've been trying to weed her off of it a little bit. We're trying to get her just to go down by herself, essentially.
Yeah.
And also let her learn the self coping in a way too. So that's what we've been working on a little bit here, and it's been working quite well. But yeah, what about you? I know it's been busy. It's been a while since we've both been here together.
It's been crazy, man. It's just been crazy. Like I said last week, I feel like I have nothing. I don't have any energy anymore, and every spare time that I have is dedicated to work, children, or
Work, children, or something else.
well, like needless to say, I'm exhausted. I need some sort of break.
Yeah, that's great.
Yay!
I love it.
So
It's amazing. So yeah, I feel you though. I mean, taking care of the children, taking care of your job, you know, even though we're both people pleasers at that point, we just like we never had time for ourselves because we're too busy pleasing people, I guess. That works. So, yeah, but
Okay, so anyway, sorry. I don't want to be not there for my children. I'd like to be still people pleasing to them, not children pleasing. I like to be a decent father at least, instead of worrying about only myself. You know what I'm? You know, you get it, right? I mean, I don't want to be a people pleaser to everybody, but I really would want to be it to my children, to the fact where they get majority of my time, but I'm not also their buddy friend. We're still rules and so on. You know.
I think being that decent or reasonable father that you had said earlier worked just fine. By the way, child pleaser seemed a little wrong.
Yeah, sorry, that came out wrong.
People pleaser, we get it, we understand it, but child pleaser, that just well depends on how you look at it too, right? Um, yeah, so I try to be a pleaser, but whatever. Um, I would say it's definitely very interesting though, because we always want to be that reasonable figure, or like we want to be that decent father to our children, and I think sometimes people forget that you still have to be the father. You can't just be the friend too. Um, I mean, some people like in the past, maybe it comes down to it's like, okay, well, I want to be your friend more so, or I want to be, I want my children to like me. So you always be friend with them, you do everything, and then you forget that you have to be the adult sometimes. Like,
And then they end up
and
not
then there's
respecting authority and on
yeah,
YouTube
exactly,
fighting with
because
cops.
they never had the authority, they never had that proper authority in their life, right?
Right.
Um, I've run into that a couple times. But there's other things too, right? Where, for example, you're too strict, which then comes to also the same thing. They don't respect authority because somewhere along the way you've always been way too strict on them, and they're just like, oh, whatever. The world's out to get me. Anybody that's authority is just going to be in my way, so I'm just really not going to listen, right? Or they're just like, yep, you, yeah. So they kind of grow resilience to it. They become more resilient. Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's one of those
You
things.
want to
But
get the sweet spot of supportive, loving, and strict at the same time.
exactly,
Yep.
exactly, it's a fine balance how we do it, and there is no actual like one direction. Um, there is no, yeah, like you said, there's that you got to find that sweet spot, but at the same time, there nobody. It's so gray. It's so gray, and it's almost like a dense fog. You go wherever you go, and hopefully you find you're finding the right path. Because there isn't really no light at the end of the tunnel to find out how to find that sweet spot of uh, the parenting and lovey dovey and support and having that friendly bonding as well. Until they get older and whatnot and
Yeah.
choose to continue to but at such a young age where they don't understand what's really going on, their innocence is still a big factor. There's definitely no way to find out unless they're you know emotionally and intellect have those smarts, um their emotional uh intelligence and just intelligence in general is very high. Their emotional quotient and intelligence quotient are really really high, and they understand that. But I don't think that's necessarily always going to happen.
Right.
So, but yeah. So, no. So, as Jared mentioned earlier, though, um, I guess what sparked this? Because I'm very curious. We did mention the glitter, right? There's two types of glitter: the one you want and the one you don't want. Really, there's just you don't really want any glitter because it's a mess unless you love glitter. Um, we're talking. You wanted to talk a little bit about sex, baby.
Yeah.
What
So
what
what brought it
sparked it?
about? I mean, there's been a lot of talk lately with the whole not letting drag queens per se into grade school to read a book or whatever the circumstance was, a library read time, whatever, which ultimately comes down to identity. But at the same time, in my brain, that's also, I mean, it all comes down to at what point do should the parents and the schools talk to the kids about sex, their reproductive organs, and when and how should we approach that with our kids when the time comes. Now there could be situations where they're going to ask you, they hear about it at school or they hear about it in the news or something, they hear about it outside of the home and they're going to ask you about it. Or you have the situation that they don't say anything, but it's at 13, 14 years old and they got to be curious, so you probably should sit them down and have the conversation. That's what all this started about.
Mm, very interesting. I mean, come to think of it, if you look at your stepson, he's getting that age. He's now at that schooling age where they're going to start doing that. Um,
If
right.
not already.
He's if not already, yeah. But they would
Yeah.
also have something out there if I recall, because when I was, from what I know, is in fourth grade, it was very little. If no, maybe I'm wrong. Fourth grade, there might not have been anything. Fifth grade, there was like a little video. It wasn't, very. It was just the start. It was here's the forest, right? Kind of think of it as a very big picture. Here's the forest. You're still standing on the outside of the forest, but we're slowly opening up the door to talk about more about the reproductive organs. There's boys, girls. You both go through puberty, and here's how here's what can change or what will
Right.
change as you get older. Um, so it was, one of those types of videos where mom and dad had to fill out basically a permission slip or a consent form saying we give our child permission to watch it. I believe they still have that nowadays.
They
I
have to.
have yet to see that for my fifth grader, but I can even keep you guys informed if we ever get something like that, because it's very
Please
interesting.
do.
Um, and the one thing actually before even talking about that and what they do in school, um, if I actually recommend this because this is what my wife and I did with our son. He had we She bought him a book about puberty basically. Okay? It was for him to read and he's finished it because we got this a while back, right? Um we got this a while back for him. Had him start reading it because we knew it was about time. He's going to be going through the changes, and this book actually does kind of help with him and getting to understand what is going to be happening. Now, it's not by any means a replacement for us to have that conversation with him,
Oh,
but
good.
it's to
Okay.
help him start understanding what his changes are going to be. You know, maybe he's going to have a high pitched voice for a little bit, like the squeakiness or whatever. I've gone through it. I'm pretty sure you went through it, Jared, right? You had the squeakiness. You
Yeah.
sounded like a
Yeah.
little girl for a little bit because, the crack in the voice or whatnot. It still happens to me from time to time, by all means. It will still happen. But, you'll start getting hair in places you never thought. Then again, human beings actually have hair on
We
them all
do.
over the place. You just can't see it all the time. I can't tell if you're
When is
being
this supposed to
sarcastic
happen?
or if that was a literal question. I just can't handle you right now. Anywho, yes. So this book, it depending on how fast of a reader you are, or whatnot, or how fast of a reader your child is, we basically made him read it like 20 minutes a night. Took him a few days to get through it.
Don't start
Right?
that.
It's not. I'm sorry. I'm trying not to.
It's fine.
Uh, it was 20 minutes a night, and he was getting through it. I think he got through it within a week, 2 weeks, maybe, depending.
Not
Um,
bad.
but we also asked him because we wanted to make sure he understood some of it too. It's like at the end of his reads, all right, what did you take away from what you just read, or what did you learn? It sucks that he was kind of just reading what he did read off the book, but at the same time, it is what it is. So,
And what was his thoughts? Did he understand it?
yeah, he did, to a degree, but that's also why it's not a replacement for the actual conversation or anything like that you will learn in school, because you're gonna have questions that, believe it or not, the book, yes, can provide some kind of answer or clairvoyance, um, but at the same time, mom and daddy still need to have that conversation to make sure you actually understand it.
Right.
Like, why do I have to take a shower more often? Well, because you as a person are growing. Your body, not only from the fact that your skin does shed constantly, right? But at the same time, you've got sweat that smells like you, or just, you start having all this sweat that kind of dries on you, makes you smell disgusting. Um, the hormonal changes don't help at all either. So, yeah, you just got to look out for all that stuff. It may say something on those lines, but it doesn't go into full detail. Whereas, like, mom and dad, or you as a parent can definitely dive into that, or like school will teach you what happens a little more in detail. Once you get to that point, again, fifth grade, it's probably not too much to worry about, or anything below that, because there's not much. You're still growing as a kid, but you're not like developing into more of like your um, your sex, right? Uh, you're just getting older. Um, you're working your way towards like being more of going from boy to man, or girl to woman, but you're not quite there yet as a 5-year old. So, uh, no, I think the sex talk is going to be huge. It actually is a funny story too. Uh, we always tell Kane, if he ever gets a girl pregnant, we're going to cut his penis off.
Oh, that's a
Basically, we're going to
joking scare
castrate him.
tactic, I guess, huh?
Tad bit, yes. Got to scare the kid. But, because it's funny, how many times have you said you don't want to have kids? Like, as you grew up?
Never. I've wanted kids since I was, a teenager. Honestly, I've always wanted to have a family.
Hmm.
But I was
So you,
also
you knew.
I was very careful on the timing of that shit because I knew what steps I wanted to take prior to that taking place.
Right. No, I did. I knew too that I wanted to be a father eventually. Although I was always told in high school that I'd make a great dad. I didn't believe it at times. I don't know where or how they saw that I was going to be a great dad or anything like that. Um, it's just, again, I wasn't necessarily ready or thought about being ready for that. But down the road, years later, bam, didn't necessarily go the way I had it planned, right? I wanted to kind of do it the traditional way, get married, have children, uh, in wedlock, not so much out of wedlock, right? Uh, just never happened that way. I did a poor job on my own self control. But yeah, so The sex talk, very important for you people. I don't know how often or how soon you'll have it, uh, but there is always great ways to prepare for it. You as a parent, probably not, um, unless you talk to yourself in the mirror talking about sex. Or
Yeah.
let me ask you this,
I
Jared:
mean,
are you comfortable with saying like vagina or penis or like the
yeah.
actual terminology?
Well, yeah. I mean, I tell my daughters to wash, their bodies, and I use the word vagina, and I don't have to
I'm
use the
just
word
asking. I know there are
penis
some
a
people that
lot, but
I had to ask because sometimes people will, get squeamish or giggle even as adults, right? I'm not saying by any means they should be more mature, but it's one of those things where there is that maturity level that you need to have when you're having this conversation. And
right. And there
I
are what?
I think it's very difficult if you cannot keep yourself composed when talking about the anatomy of the human body.
Right. And there are a lot of people, I don't know how many are out there. I haven't done studies, but I assume there's a good portion of the population who isn't comfortable saying those things and isn't comfortable discussing sexual relations and how they are traditionally had with their children. And that's kind of another reason why I wanted to bring it up, is to get, for you parents who have yet to do this, get ready and prepare yourself for this conversation, because it is a very important conversation to have with your children. Well,
So
young
how do you
adults.
recommend that then? So how would you recommend? Because I'm sure the community would love to know. How would you, as an adult or a parent, recommend getting ready to have that conversation? Uh, are I mean, I'm asking myself this right now: is how do I want to do it too? Right? Because I believe it or not, I'm getting to that age too. I've got an 11-year-old, I've got a 6-year-old. And by the way, I've told not only this, but I've told my 6 and 4-year-old not to play with their penises. Right? And I'm being, blunt about it. I'd be like, you see their hands go in their pants every now and then. I'm like, stop, take your hands out. You don't need to play. Or as they sometimes getting ready for bed, getting changed or whatnot, it's like you don't need to play with your penis.
Yeah. Well, as far as how, take each child, find something that they can, kind of enjoy doing while you are trying to, get them to have a serious conversation, kind of thing. Like, I picture it, we're playing a game and we kind of just bring it up naturally in a sort of conversational way, instead of being like a confrontational way. Like, come sit down on the couch, we have to have a talk, kind of thing. I don't think that works a lot with, or works efficiently with a lot of kids, just because I'm picturing it in a way of like a professional or a therapist would do, that tries to get you to engage in the conversation. At the same time, you're I don't know. I don't want to say you're preoccupied with something else. I just don't want that to be like the only awkward conversation you're having while in silence on the couch with mom and dad sitting across from you, asking for your responses, kind of thing. Do you understand?
It, that's not. I do, and actually, it's a very interesting approach. And I say it's, I don't know how often people think about it. I think if you ever have the conversation like that, um, and by the conversation like that, I mean like the second one where you are confrontational in a way. I don't think people are ever going to mean it to be confrontational, like sit down, we need to have a talk. No, it's, sit down, we think you're ready to have this conversation, or we need
That
to have a
too.
conversation about the birds and the bees or whatever it is. Um, uh, but it's like at that time, the child may not be ready to have that conversation. So you're really you're not having that conversation. You're more or less having like not even a dialogue. I can't say it's a monologue because you're not really like talking it, or I guess monotoning is the other word I was thinking of. I mean, it would just be a monologue at that point, a one-sided conversation, right? Um, so you got to make sure you definitely have. If you as a parent are ready to have that conversation, you need to make sure you approach it delicately, or as Jared was saying, maybe get them started with something, right? Have, kind of distract them. The only thing I think about now, though, with your approach, Jared, having them distracted by playing video games or doing something else, for example, like coloring books or
Board game or
I don't know, playing board games, uh, and just all of a sudden having it come up in conversation. That approach, as it may seem to be more of a passive approach, right? Um,
relaxed.
may also lead to some awkwardness too, because they may, or yeah, relaxed approach, but it may lead to some awkwardness because now they feel a little more pressured because you now have them trapped too, because you're trying to
Could
play a
be.
board game. It's a thought, right? We never know how the kids truly are going to react until it happens. Um, I won't. I'm not by any means putting it down. You can give it a shot, right? Uh, Try to have those approaches. I mean, you've got 2, 3 kids that you can try it with, or different approaches with. I luckily have 4. So it's not like you have, if it doesn't work for one, you can always try the second one, but at the same time it's like maybe you try something else, maybe you do try more of a direct conversation. um I am curious though, because, and this isn't necessarily for you though, Jared, this is more or less, I would love to see how it actually comes up. Am I going to be the one having to start the conversation because I'm more comfortable? I can't even say that, because it'll be like, oh boy, my child is getting ready, or he's growing up, or she's getting older, she's going to want to know more about these changes that are really happening. Am I going to be comfortable actually having this conversation? And the answer to that, folks, is no. Are you ever going to be comfortable talking about sex to your child or children? And I'm being 100% honest, I probably will not. Will my wife and I have that conversation? Yes. Will it be easy? Probably not. And by easy, I mean it's going to cause, I don't want to say turmoil, but it's definitely going to pull probably at some emotions, because it means our children are growing up. And it's,
Yeah, I can see that.
not like it's something they're thinking about, but it's like, oh man, what happened to our innocent children that we used to know and love? I
Yeah.
mean, they're still there. They're still our children that we love. They're just not so innocent anymore.
And you bring up a good point too, is that you don't know whether it's going to be you or Sam, but folks out there who have a partner or who are divorced, make sure you talk about this, when the right time is and how to do it, or who is going to do it with your partner, or with your ex partner or your current partner, just so you guys can get on the same page with it. Even if like you are in a divorce situation, you talk to your ex partner, and and if you want to have this conversation that way, the other partner, ex partner, knows that the conversation has been had. So just communicate with that as well, because honestly,
Yeah.
one of the perks about me being a dad of 2 girls, I was kind of just assuming that I'd be off the hook, but I don't think that's going to be the case. So,
Good luck with that one. No.
you know,
See, I'm sitting here thinking the same thing. maybe
See?
because you're a dad and you're a guy, you'll have a conversation with your boys, or with
Right.
any male. Um, if you want to, if you Now, this is going to be a little unfair if you ever have this conversation. I feel like you would lose this one very, very hard. Jared, I'm sorry to say. I think if you had this conversation with your spouse, you would definitely lose. Be like, hey, since we have daughters, can you have this conversation? You're more of a expert on the body of a woman than I am. So, but at the same time, maybe you don't. I mean, this is where that communication, like you mentioned as well, comes into play. Have that communication of how you want to communicate or have that conversation with your children too. Do you break it off and be like, all right, well, since I'm a guy or since I'm a dad, I'm not going to talk about the woman's body or the female's body at all because that's not my expertise. All right. Or maybe it's like, okay, fine. We're both going to tackle it because maybe dad can shed some light on what happens when, you know, a guy is interested in a girl, or what parts the guy is interested in, right? Um,
Well, that's
so
all
what you need
subject
to be
to
careful for.
personal choice, but yeah.
I know, but you can always give your daughters a heads up and be like, they may
You
not
see,
actually be
kid, the
interested in
average
you. They're just
male,
thinking.
like, I get it. I'm just giving you shit. Calm down.
I know you are. Calm down. And vice versa. But at the same time, who knows? Maybe you just try to have that conversation as okay, I'm going to be stuck talking to three boys about sex and their hormones and their temptations. Fuck. Never going to be
Yeah,
able to afford it.
but yeah, to piggyback off of that, I'd also want to ask the child, or ask the prepubescent child, do you get any weird feelings when you see a X or Y, or whatever,
Yep.
just to leave it open and be kind of in their ball court, instead of saying, well, women like this and men like this, because they might not like that. Know what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying though. I do want to ask those questions. Yeah, I figured as much. Yippee ki Um, but no, you do bring up the valid point. Ask them what kind of temptations or feelings they've had. Um, you do. I don't. I take it lightly or take it with a grain of salt because I don't honestly know how truthful my son is being. Because right now he says he has like no interest in women or no interest in guys. Um, that's a whole nother ball. That's a whole nother game at this
He's
point.
still young though.
You know, well, not really. He's
He's
still young. He's
11.
still figuring it out, and maybe luckily he hasn't hit that point yet, which I know will change. But right now it's a good thing because if as much as his mom and I joke about it, right? We like to poke fun at him and be like, "Yep, this person likes you, blah blah blah." We could see you being with them. It's like, "You gross." It's like, so you still have that, what we had a while back is like, "Oh God, they've got cooties," kind of thing, right? Or ew, I could never see myself with them. Now, this brings me to the movie. It's an older movie called The Swan Princess. Do you remember that movie?
Nope. No, I don't.
Bummer. Anyway, so The Swan Princess is about Prince and Princess, Prince Derek and Princess Odette. They're Derek was
It's not a
born
movie.
a little older than her, but it is a movie. It's an older movie. I don't remember
I'm looking
what
up the Swamp Princess, buddy, and I don't see it's a movie.
you are terrible. It is a movie. Swan Princess is a very old movie.
Oh, Swan.
1994.
Swan Princess.
What do
I
you
thought you
think I
said
was
swamp. Swamp.
saying? No, not swamp. Swan. 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 Swan, swan, swan.
Swamp Princess.
As in the beautiful bird.
From the Black
Oh,
Lagoon.
God, Swamp Princess. I know where your head's at. It's in the fucking gutter, dude.
No, it's just like when I thought of
You want to
Swamp
see a
Princess, I thought of
swampy...
the creature from the Black Lagoon. You know.
Nope. Don't even want to go there, but we know what you're thinking about. Swamp nuts. Just kidding. Anyways, Swan Princess. Now that Jared actually knows what I'm talking about, by
But no, I still
finally
haven't seen that
finding
one
it, I
either.
take it, right?
Yeah.
It's so sad. It's so sad, but it's a good movie. It's like one of my favorite movies, um, from when I was growing up. And basically, they like their parents, like Odette's dad, King, and Derek's mom, Queen, had the idea that they would get together every summer and hang out. And it kind of goes through like a whole montage of them just getting together as they get older and blah blah blah. Then all of a sudden, bam! Odette's this beautiful woman, and Derek is this handsome man, and they're like, "Huh, this is my kind of fun." Right? They finally like look at each other and be like, "Well, puberty has been really good to each other." Yeah. Now, I think there is some tie of them actually hanging out every single summer and whatnot. That does play in as usual, but that's kind of what they alleviate to. But at the same time, it's like, bam, Odette's this beautiful, beautiful woman now, or coming of age, and Derek is this guy coming into his age and everything, and yeah, they're meant for each other now. Bam. So, the idea of not even having an interest at a young age, and then all of a sudden you getting older and all of a sudden be like, yep. So for example, maybe I'm a kid and I had no interest in my wife, and all of a sudden my wife and I we become an age and she looks phenomenal. I'm like, what the hell? It's exactly like that. So um the transformations of the body is going to be a very hard conversation. Even just having that conversation from a child or asking them that question of, has there been any kind of, as Jared mentioned, interest or things that stand out to you about so and so, or um, have you had any interest of something, right? Whatever you honestly said before. But
Fuzzy,
I
weird
felt like
feelings
that was a
about
lot of
things.
rambling. I apologize.
Well, that's fine.
As far as sex talk, though, right? Again, I I would almost prefer my child bring it to me, but I don't think that's actually going to happen unless they are told to by like their teacher as like some sort of assignment, or maybe the teacher does highly encourage them if they do have questions to come talk to mom and dad, because the teacher can only do so much at certain points. Like in middle school and high school, it probably changes. They do more, as I recall, doing a lot more of the talk or like having education on, uh, sex, and going through. We've even watched videos about um, a person going from getting pregnant to birth. So we've watched those videos in high school, but yeah, I mean, in middle school it's one thing, but at the same time, you get to high school, you start talking about that. Then you get to college, and you're just like, "Yep, here's biology and whatever. Here's human anatomy," and you're looking at all the organs in the body, female, male, and you're like, "Bam, here's your reproductive organs."
That
It's
happens in high
nothing.
school though.
You should be
You
an
get
adult by
both
then
stories.
and still be able to handle this.
Yeah, I mean, because I think in high
Yes.
school you get both sides of the spectrum, where in middle school and grade school, you get focus on your own
No, you still get both sides of the
gender.
spectrum in middle school and high school. Middle school does more of like an entry level kind of thing though too. Um, High school does dive deep more or more deep into the weeds basically.
Yeah.
So you may start talking about like the scrotum holds the testicles, right? Whereas in high school you start talking, and depending on the class though too, because if you take like biology or like an AP biology thing, you know, then you might start talking about, well, here's how the reproductive organs work. Whereas in high school, like health class, I don't know if people still have that nowadays. They may talk about they may talk about that too, but they're not going to be like, well, all this, everything here in the testicles is what causes you blah blah blah, right? You're not going to talk about seminal fluid, for example. So,
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what
it's
grade I
odd that I'm
learned.
saying it as comfortably
Yeah.
as I am.
Well, that just shows you're a man, JJ. But no, I mean, because I can't remember when. I know we watched, like, there was a video of sperm actually inseminated an egg. We watched that in 8th grade, but I
Yeah,
can't remember when we got into like the nitty gritty, the full package of like what the balls do, kind of thing. And I know that one of them is responsible for one thing, the other one's responsible for other thing, and then they meet together, and then, but I can't remember when the hell that was. Damn it! And I know I remember this clearly, like it was fucking yesterday. But my
like it was
middle
yesterday.
school health teacher was very open about how awesome sex is. Like literally, the first sentence out of his mouth: "Sex is great, guys." I can't lie to you. It's like, dude, wow, okay, it's one of those
Wow.
classes.
I
Yeah, he was,
had female teachers for my sex classes, so it was definitely not the same way as you remember it.
and yeah, because I know in high school health
I get
class
what you're
we
saying.
learn more. We learn more about STDs and shit. Yeah, yep, like herpes and all that other stuff.
Yeah, that was going. Yeah, we did talk more about some STDs. I would love to see if I can find a curriculum from high school now, if I still have any. I probably don't, but kind of like look back and see. Here's what we talked about. I know you do start talking about certain things like some of the hormones within the body. So, like you do talk about estrogen, uh, progesterone. Yeah,
Testosterone,
I'm saying it wrong already. God,
estrogen.
testosterone. Uh, yeah. Well, then there's the proestrogen too, or whatever, PRO. Uh,
Oh man.
yeah, I can't. Saying it's hard for some reason, but the other hormones. And you talk about the endorphin, serotonin, dopamine, things like that as well, and how those all play a factor in the body and what chemicals are being released as well. So yeah, is there anything else you want to talk about tonight or today here, Jared, for this
No,
sex episode?
no, just be as open and honest with your children as much as you want to be, I guess. But I'm gonna be honest with you. The more honest you are with your kids about sex, the more they know, and the more they feel comfortable enough talking with you about it. I rather not have you end up in a situation where they don't feel comfortable talking to you, and 9 months into their 17th year of life, I got a little guy or I got a little baby because they didn't feel comfortable telling you that they either had sex or they were pregnant, and now here's a situation. I
Yeah. No, it's. I agree. I would always try to be um try to be open to having conversation. Be honest with them about it though as well. Um, I mean, you don't want to just be like, all right, let's talk about sex. Hold on. Excuse me.
Bless you.
You know,
Jesus.
today. Oh, by the way, today we're just gonna talk. We're gonna talk about sex. Yeah, right. We're definitely having some issues, but you don't want to necessarily be like, yep. Today is a sex day. We're gonna have talk about sex today, and we're gonna spend the entire night talking about sex just so you understand it. No, that will overwhelm them. That will put them into an awkward state. You need to find the right time as well, but also let them know that if they have questions or if they need to talk about something, that you're willing to have that conversation. Doesn't matter
Yes.
when or where.
Right?
Just make sure you're able to have that conversation and know that you are going to support their curiosity as to when that happens.
And promote
So,
safety.
you know what they say, right?
Don't be a fool, wrap your tool.
No sex is safe sex. No, no sex is safe
Mr.
sex.
Abstinence guy over here.
That's what they've always told us, though, right?
Yeah, but it's
I
stupid.
mean, yeah, sure. Don't be a fool. Wrap your tool. I mean, there are definitely people out there that are still abstinent, and I give them props. So, for all those that are abstinent, congratulations. It's, I would say it's probably a hard fought battle that you have, or maybe you just never think about it either. So, um,
Asexual.
congratulations. It's, don't throw them under the bus. They may not always be asexual. They just may not always have sexual thoughts.
I thought that was asexual, where
It doesn't.
they have no urge to have sex. At least that's what my buddy in high school told me.
You can always look it up. That's for sure. I
Well, on
mean,
that note, folks.
there's yeah, we're not going to dive into the
No.
sexualities like pansex, metrosexual, heterosexual, homosexual. We're not going to dive into that today. Maybe at all. But no, so all you be safe, have those conversations. Don't force them though, because then if you force a conversation, it's never going to end well. Or you're going to scare your child away from wanting to have that any of those types of conversations with you. Possibly. I'm, being presumptuous. Um, but you never know how hard it can be for a child to have that kind of conversation or feel comfortable coming to you to have that conversation. Just based on even past history of conversations that you have had. So it all depends on how approachable, because your child will know if you're approachable or not as well. So just remember, be approachable.
Be
Don't
open.
get be open. Don't get angry that they're asking you. They're curious. They have the right to be curious, and we have to support that curiosity. And if you're not comfortable, make sure you communicate with your partner, your significant other, your spouse, whatever they are to you, um, that you guys need to work together to have this conversation as well, or find some way to get this conversation out to your child or children. So, but yes, we will see you guys next time and have a wonderful time.
See ya.